I had just become a grandmother and I was intrigued by the name, the Raging Grannies, and I went online to see what that was about. And there I discovered there was this whole world out there of women who were doing what I loved most, singing and making a difference in the world. And so I put that all together. I got a few friends. We stood on the steps of the public library and we sang a song about, save our public library. And it was picked up by a newspaper reporter, and there was a picture of us with our hats and our shawls and our aprons standing there singing about saving the library. And I started getting calls saying, I want to do that too. It is very satisfying for older women like ourselves to know that we can make a difference. People do listen to us, and we have something to say that's really important and that resonates with them.
Hello, and welcome to Not Born Yesterday, a podcast dedicated to older adults and the challenges and joys of aging. I'm Miriam Goodman.
Not Born Yesterday is brought to you by Next Village SF, a nonprofit providing older adults in San Francisco with support to help age in place. Also by the Fromm Institute for Lifelong Learning and Shannon Greavy of A Bigger Room. I'm your co-host, Lynn Winter Gross.
Today on Not Born Yesterday, we're going to talk about humor and political power and how we can use them both effectively at any age. But first, we want to remind you that since ancient times, the strong, wise older women were the ones who advised, mediated, and fought for what was right. Sadly, too often in modern times, older women are seen as powerless, invisible, and with nothing important to contribute. That is why today we want to tell you about how a certain group of older women challenge that stereotype and use their wisdom and humor to educate and hopefully influence public policy. Called the Raging Grannies, there are more than 60 of these groups across the country, and all write and perform songs on social and political issues at demonstrations and other political events. The songs satirize politics and corruption in public life and invite everyone to sing along.
The Raging Grannies believe that their effectiveness is partly due to their identification as older women with an unexpected public rage. They perform their protests not as authorities, but as ordinary people with something to say, and they turn their age, often a liability, into a resource. Their actions are aimed at promoting dialogue and raising consciousness by stimulating political debates on issues from gun control to climate change. The Raging Grannies provide a positive example of channeling rage and despair and reveal older women's ongoing playful energy. Our guest today is Raging Grannie Vicki Rider. Vicki, welcome to Not Born Yesterday.
Thank you so much for inviting me to join you. It's really a pleasure.
Vicki, let's start with a discussion about the group's name. We normally associate the word granny with a soft-spoken older woman, someone who doesn't really voice a lot of opinions on political issues. Then you add the word raging to your name, and now we get a whole different image. How was the name Raging Grannies selected?
Well, I think it was really meant to encourage in people that responsive double take, where you think of your grandma as quiet, well-mannered, and suddenly the image of a granny who can shake an umbrella at power is something that just invariably causes people to laugh just at our name, even if they don't know what we do and have never heard us. But they say, oh, Raging Grannies, that's a great name. What do you do? So I think our founding sisters, our grannies up in Victoria, British Columbia, were the ones who gave us the name and gave us the idea. And we owe them a tremendous debt of gratitude for being able to stand on their shoulders and do what they modeled for us as a way that older women could come out of the shadows and not be put in their place when we had something to say, especially when that something was threatening the future of our grandchildren.
Raging grannies are conspiring to make folks laugh a lot. Satire is so very frightening, it must be a terrorist plot. Listen to their conversation in their knees, hiding weapons none can see. We have found them out, know what they're all about. Peace and social justice conspiracy.
So what are the issues today that you want to educate listeners about?
Well, have you got a couple of hours? Every day it seems there's something new to rage about, and some of them that come to mind right away are the way that elections are conducted in our country, the way our environment is being not only neglected but purposely destroyed for profit. We rage against war. We rage against the privatization of our healthcare and our public schools and our post offices. We rage against the injustices that are meted out to people who are different from the what is usually called the majority, although we know that that may not be so. I'm talking about LGBT people. I'm talking about the disabled. I'm talking about people of color, immigrants. Wherever there's injustice, wherever there are threats to our liberties and our potential for being our fullest selves, those are the things we rage about.
You use humor and satire to get your message out. Are there some subjects that your members disagree about and don't want to sing about?
There are. It varies from, and we call our groups gaggles, by the way. We have one of the earliest songs we sang was "We're a gaggle of grannies, raging, urging you up off your fannies," and it went on from there. So it varies. Some won't touch the abortion issue because there are differences of opinion among their groups. But because we work by consensus and feel that it's important that every member of the gaggle be comfortable and supportive of our message, we agree to leave alone those that we can't reach consensus on, rather than try to force the issue, because there are so many other things that need attention that we don't want to be our own impediments to doing what we do. But for the most part, I think we all agree that saving the planet is pretty key, however we do that.
Climate change. We've got to slow the rate of climate change. The situation's one of urgency, emergency. With short-sighted thinking, we'll see all coastlines sinking. Climate change. Good science tells us about climate change. We need to cut down use of fossil fuels, set up new rules. Fracking gas and oil will make the planet boil. Climate change. Our kids and grandkids need a healthy place to live. Sustainability requires you and me to take drastic action now to slow down climate change. The planet cannot wait for us to change. Depend on energy from wind and sun. It must be done. To outrun disaster, we must act fast and faster. Climate change. Our kids and grandkids need a healthy place to live. Sustainability requires you and me to take drastic action now.
How do the nannies dress for the occasion, and what is the message that you hope the outfit will send?
Well, it was meant satirically to bring out the stereotype of what a little old lady looks like, and to milk that for all it's worth, to say, okay, you think we're little old ladies with shawls and funny hats and so on, but just listen to what we have to say. And even before we open our mouths, people will see us coming, because if you've ever seen the grannies in action, we wear outlandish hats, that big hats that grandmas used to wear. But we just try to do our best to look like sweet, innocent little old ladies, and what the stereotype of that might mean for people, and then to surprise them with the humor and the satire that we bring to our songs.
Were many of you politically active in high school or college or as young mothers or middle-aged women?
Surprisingly, there's a wide range. There are some people who said, before I heard the Granny sing, I didn't think that politics applied to me, and that there was nothing that I could do and I wasn't involved. For other people like myself, I was raised in an activist family, and being out on picket lines and speaking truth to power was something that I learned from my parents. But for other grannies, they had an awakening. Maybe the first time was when they themselves were victimized by some of our policies, the inability to get health care that was affordable, or something like that. And then they said, something's wrong here, and I need to do something about it. Others, interestingly enough, became involved after they heard the Raging Grannies sing, and it touched something in them.
So if someone listening now wants to join a group or even form a group, how can they find you? And I guess the other question is, do you have to have a good singing voice?
Okay, let me answer the first one, the last question first. Absolutely not. And if you've ever heard us sing, you'll know that it's not necessary to have a good singing voice. We like to be a little rough around the edges. We're not a performing choir. We don't strive for professionalism. What we strive for is just the ability to get the lyrics out in a way that can be heard and understood clearly. How do you join? Well, we make it very simple. You just go to raginggrannies.org. That's R-A-G-I-N-G, Raging Grannies, G-R-A-N-N-I-E-S, raginggrannies.org. And you will find there a Locate a Gaggle tab. And you click on that, and you'll see a drop-down menu of all the gaggles in Canada and all the gaggles in the U.S. Yeah, we're out there, and you can find us easily. And we even have, I produced many years ago a tab called the Raging Granny Starter Kit. So if you find yourself alone in a town where there is no gaggle yet of Raging Grannies, all you have to do is gather together 2 or 3 other women who are like-minded and have something to rage about, and you get out there, you write a song about it. Or if you're not songwriters, we have another website that's raginggrannies.net, which is an archive of all of our songs. So you can find one that appeals to you, and then you can tweak it to make it your own. So the songs are there for the picking for other grannies. You do have to belong to a gaggle to use those songs publicly, but anybody in public is free to look at them.
We need to wake up. We need to rise up. We need to open our eyes and do it now, now, now. We need to build a safer future, and the time to start is now. We are a country that has a problem. Too many guns, too many shootings. We ask how can we build a safer future? 'Cause we need to start right now. We are aware that thoughts and prayers, while kindly meant, don't prevent hearing pow, pow, pow. We need new laws that have some claws, and we need to pass them now.
So people would say, oh, I want to do that too. I'm a granny. And you don't have to be a biological granny. We have many women who will never be biological grandmothers, but they are of that certain age, and being a raging granny is what they want to do. So
Do you get hecklers?
almost never. No. We get a lot of wonderful responses. I remember one Christmas, we went down to sing our altered Christmas carols. And we were at the food court. There was a woman sitting there by herself, and we were singing against the war. This was right after we had been in the war in Iraq for several years by that time, actually. And she started to cry. And she said, I'm here by myself. I'm a grandmother. My son is in Iraq, and I am taking care of my grandchildren until he gets back. And the kids are in school. I just sat down here to get a cup of coffee. She said, I can't tell you what this has meant to me. to see other women like myself who think this war is wrong. And she was so grateful. That's more of the kind of comment we get. We get a lot of laughs. People, because we set the lyrics to popular old melodies, people sometimes think we're just singing these old melodies, but then there's something a little different about the lyrics, and they stop to listen, and then they get it. And we get a lot of applause, we get cheers. It is very satisfying for older women like ourselves to know that we can make a difference. People do listen to us, and we have something to say that's really important, and that resonates with them. And so, and you don't have to sing. I would encourage anybody to just get out there and speak your truth, but we happen to do it with song, and that gives me a lift, gives us all a lift, I think.
Do you, one of the things I'm wondering about is our country is so divided right now politically, and maybe you've answered this question, but there's the red states and the blue states that are your songs so different in each state? And is this a problem within the Grannies?
No, it's not a problem, but we are strictly nonpartisan. We do not endorse candidates. We don't ever sing for a candidate who's running for office. But once they're in office, they're fair game, because they have been elected by us to take care of us. And if they're not doing that, then we'll let them have it. Grannies know that that's not okay. So,
you mentioned that you sing on street corners or on the steps of the library. Are there other places where you perform? And are you ever invited to perform at a party or something when they're not quite sure who you are and what you're going to do?
Well, I think usually if they invite us, they pretty much know what we're about. They've heard us and they know. We let them know that we are nonpartisan. We are often invited to events, to rallies and demonstrations and so on, but we don't wait to be invited. I remember once was during the Iraq War, we went to Hillary Clinton's office and brought her 2,000 dead flowers when our country had reached 2,000 of our troops having been killed. We sang a song. Of course, she wasn't at the office, but we sang to her staff and let them know why we were there and made sure that they would promise to give her the flowers.
Vicki, you write a lot of the songs.
I do.
How do you go about writing them, choosing what to write about, and what melody to use that's familiar to most people?
Okay, so this is a song that I wrote recently for the Poor People's Campaign, and we wrote it as a message to our state legislators. We were angry when you raised all those taxes on the poor. We were outraged when you authorized those pipelines. Our infrastructure's gone to pot, and our grandkids are getting shot. So we're raging, 'cause now you've pissed off Grandma. There are more verses. The second one was, you gerrymandered our elections, and it's harder now to vote. You'd rob women of their rights to plan their families. Gay or straight or trans or poor, we're worse off than we were before. And you've ignored us, so now you've pissed off Grandma. It's a hard thing, increasingly, to pick a song that everybody's familiar with. One of the reasons I pick songs that are somewhat familiar in the public domain, that's a big one. They've got to be in the public domain so we don't run into copyright infringement issues. We grew up learning to sing "Oh Susanna" or "On Top of Old Smoky" and songs like that. They've never heard those songs. And when we've done workshops in schools because we help kids if they want to learn to write their own songs, protest songs, and get out and sing them. And so we do workshops for the kids. And we try to find a song that everybody knows. And there's only one that I've ever found in all the years I've been doing that, and that was "Happy Birthday to You." Everybody knows that. But I pick simple melodies like this one because, grannies are not all musicians, and to have to learn the music as well as the lyrics can feel daunting.
So that reminds me that you said you do workshops with children, you were singing to legislators. Do you see your role as motivating other people to get politically involved, not just to listen to your lyrics, but they themselves to get involved?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's our whole purpose, is to get people to stand up and speak their truth and not be silenced because they are perceived as little old ladies. And old men too, have this problem that once you're old, you just, your thoughts and your beliefs are not always respected and revered the way sometimes they need to be. So, and in fact, there are always men who say, I want to sing with you too. And I say, hey, if you want to do that, go start your own group of grumpy grandpas, but where this because we have things to say about women that need to be said by women, especially when our rights are being challenged. So we like it that way. But you don't have to be a grandmother. You just have to feel that you are of that certain age. When young people want to join us, they say, we want to do that too. Well, there is a group. There's one called the Radical Cheerleaders. There are other groups where you can get out and do it. But this is for the older generation. This is for those of us who face other kinds of challenges because of our age. And it would not be appropriate, for you to be singing about how you fall through the Medicare gap if you're 13 years old. It just doesn't work.
Well, thank you so much for your humor and your songs and your inspiration. Our guest was Vicki Rider of the Raging Grannies.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Grannies with their hats, a bunch of old bats, scaring us with what they sing. If they stay in tune, that will spell our doom. Spreading freedom and democracy, we're raging grannies singing for justice. Grannies singing for an end to war. Grannies singing and spreading the truth. World peace
Today on News You Can Use, we're talking about medication overload. In other words, many older adults are taking too many drugs. This is not about the opioid crisis or recreational drugs. This is a serious problem because millions of adults are ending up in emergency rooms or even in hospitalization due to the side effects or the mixture of drugs. And the problem has not been addressed because it is almost invisible. Even government agencies seem unaware of the scope of the problem.
And it really is a problem. According to recent reports in the New York Times and Next Avenue, more than 50% of older adults take 5 or more drugs every day. With so many drugs being used, the risk of an adverse drug result increases up to 10% with each medication. 3 classes of drugs contribute to 60% of emergency department visits among older adults. Blood thinners, which may lead to severe bleeding, diabetes drugs, which can cause increasing risk of falls or confusion, and opioids, which can cause sedation, falls, or even cognitive impairment. Anti-anxiety and blood pressure medications and many commonly used over-the-counter drugs, including antihistamines, can also cause risky results.
Some older adults become confused or overwhelmed when trying to track their numerous medications, including what they're for. Patients often see several specialists who prescribe multiple medications, and when they have symptoms like dizziness, one physician may prescribe something to treat that, rather than examining all the medications the patient is taking. The experts suggest bringing all the pill containers with you when you visit your primary care provider. And if you're advised to stop one or more of the drugs, check with your pharmacist, as many drugs need to be tapered off rather than stopped suddenly. There are many medications that people keep taking long after they're needed, which adds to the cost of medical care. Be sure you know what you are taking and why. You may find out that you actually feel better without that drug, so don't put this off.
And that's our podcast for today. Our thanks to our guest, Vicki Rider of the Raging Grannies. You can learn more about Next Village SF at their website, nextvillagesf.org. And check out frominstitute.org, which offers a wide range of learning opportunities for older adults. Our theme music is from Hook Sounds, and Jason Dahlstedt is our engineer. Shannon Greavy of A Bigger Room is our social media consultant. And thank you for listening. We'd love to hear what you would like us to discuss and discover. Please contact us at notbornyesterdaypodcast.org and follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. All of these are free and help us know our audience better. Be well, stay strong, and remember, you weren't born yesterday. I'm Lynn Winter Gross.
And I'm Miriam Goodman.